You get this feeling the moment you arrive. This city was planned for speed. The station connects to everything. Signs are everywhere. The walkways funnel crowds smoothly. Digital screens tell you what's next before you even ask. It's not just modern, it's organized, like the city is designed to run, not just to look good. A lot of people look up at the glass towers and say, that's the future. But the real future city test is not what you see. It's how fast the city can move people, power, water, data, and decisions without breaking daily life. Today, we're going to open the hood on China's future city story. The twist is simple. The advantage isn't the buildings, it's the hidden operating system underneath them and the way it gets upgraded year after year. Skyscrapers are the loudest part of a city, but they're not the hardest part. With enough money, many countries can hire the same architects, import the same cranes, and pour the same concrete. What's harder is managing the scale of modern urban life. China has urbanized at an enormous pace, with a majority of its population now living in cities, meaning city systems have had to grow, connect, and adapt fast. And that pressure changes priorities. When millions of people move, a city doesn't just need more buildings, it needs more city plumbing, transport, payments, permits, emergency response, and all the quiet rules that keep a place working. So here's our first open loop. If the advantage isn't the buildings, what is it? Think of a city like a smartphone. The phone's case can look amazing, but if the apps are slow, the network drops, and nothing talks to anything else, it still feels old. One reason some Chinese cities feel ahead is that daily transactions and services are deeply digital. Mobile payment platforms turned the phone into a wallet for everything from groceries to transit to small street stalls, and researchers have tracked how quickly this changed consumer behavior. That matters because a future city is not a museum, it's a place where tiny frictions add up. If paying, booking, and verifying identity takes seconds instead of minutes, the city feels smoother, even when the streets are crowded. Behind the scenes, China's central bank tracks huge payment flows through national clearing systems. In its 2024 payment report, the People's Bank of China described nationwide payment systems processing extremely large volumes and values of transactions, evidence of how much daily life runs through digital rails. Now comes the payoff. Once money moves easily, other things can ride on the same rails. Think about refunds, subsidies, transit tickets, utility bills, and even some government services. When a city makes those steps simple, it can roll out policies faster. China's national plans have openly pushed this direction. For example, an official state council policy release in January 2022 described promoting the digital economy and using digitalization to improve public services, alongside smart city construction. Researchers also study these reforms as real policy shifts, not just marketing. Studies on Internet plus government services describe how digital government can change how firms and people interact with the state. Less paper, fewer trips, more online steps. But apps are only the top layer. Underneath, you need fast, cheap connectivity. China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology has reported rapid growth in 5G base stations, reaching around 4.76 million by the end of October 2025. And the expansion continued. Industry reports, citing MIIT data, said the total reached about 4.83 million 5G base stations by the end of November 2025, showing what scale looks like when infrastructure build-out becomes a national habit. A second invisible piece is data centers, the warehouses of the internet. China has published plans to make data centers greener and more efficient. Those plans mention targets for a metric called PUE, which is basically how much electricity a data center wastes on cooling and support systems. Now connect the dots. When connectivity is dense and computing is close by, cities can run systems that need instant feedback. Traffic control, emergency dispatch, grid monitoring, and platform-style public services. China even gave this stack a name, new infrastructure. In 2020, policy discussions described it as a push into things like 5G, data centers, and AI, which is software that finds patterns in huge data. It also included the industrial internet, meaning factories and machines connected by data. A city also runs on movement. China's national statistics releases have reported a modern rail network with over 48,000 kilometers of high-speed rail lines by the end of 2024. Then, on December 26, 2025, China's state news agency reported the high-speed rail network had expanded beyond 50,000 kilometers of operational mileage, marking another milestone in building the rails first. Here's the contrast that matters. Globally, high-speed rail lines in operation are on the order of tens of thousands of kilometers in total. So when one country builds a large share of that network, it changes what normal travel feels like inside its cities and regions. But it's not a simple victory story. Commentators and analysts have raised questions about debt, profitability, and whether every new line will be heavily used, especially as demographics shift and growth slows. That debate is important because it points to the real theme. The advantage is not just more concrete, it's the ability to coordinate huge projects and connect them to daily life quickly, sometimes faster than the financial math can fully catch up. Now we hit the deeper layer. How does a country learn to do this? One answer is experimentation. China's special economic zones, launched in 1980, were designed as places to test new rules and attract investment, Shenzhen being the most famous early example. That pilot-first habit didn't stay in factories. It spread into cities. Build a district, test a transit line, try a digital permit system, measure what works, and then scale it, often city by city. National plans also push local governments towards specific goals. The translated outline of China's 14th five-year plan includes language about building smart cities and using digitalization to improve governance and services. So the advantage becomes a loop. Policy sets a direction, pilots test ideas, and scale turns the best ideas into the new baseline. That loop is the software update most people miss when they only look at skylines. Let's make it concrete. One famous example is the idea of a city brain, a platform that pulls in data from cameras, GPS, and sensors to help manage traffic and emergencies. Researchers have described this as a real-world deployment of large-scale AI in city systems. Academic work also warns that when a city relies on big digital platforms, those platforms can start shaping how the city is run. In other words, the app layer can influence real-world decisions, not just convenience. And the technology keeps moving, but the key idea is already here. When a city can see traffic in real time and adjust signals, small changes can add up. In published case descriptions of city brain, researchers report improvements like faster emergency response and better traffic flow during pilots. Another future city concept is the digital twin. That means a living digital model of streets, pipes, buildings, and flows, so planners can test changes in software before making them in cement. Global organizations have documented how digital twin cities are being built and evaluated. Xiang'an New Area, announced in 2017, is often discussed as a major testbed for this kind of smartification. Researchers have examined how the state plays an active role in shaping these systems there. Now, here's the payoff. None of this requires a single iconic tower. It requires standards, data sharing, and the boring work of making systems talk to each other, so the city can respond faster than human paperwork ever could. A real future city also survives bad weather. China's Sponge City effort is one example, using parks, wetlands, permeable surfaces, and redesigned drainage to soak up rain and reduce flooding. Regional institutions have also summarized the program as a national pilot effort across dozens of cities, with thousands of projects aimed at flood control and better water management. Energy is another hidden layer. As electric vehicles spread, cities need chargers, grid upgrades, and rules that make charging simple in dense neighborhoods. The International Energy Agency tracks how China's public charging stock and growth shape the global picture. Remember the open loop from the start. What makes a city feel like the future? Sometimes it's not speed or shine, it's resilience, less flooding, cleaner air, and systems that can handle new demand without chaos. Now we have to talk about the hard questions. When a city runs on data, someone has to decide who collects it, how it's used, and how people are protected. China's Personal Information Protection Law took effect on November 1, 2021, and sets rules for processing personal data in cross-border transfers. But law on paper and practice on the street are not always the same thing. Scholars debate how smart city platforms change power and governance, and how to balance efficiency with rights, transparency, and accountability. There's also the question of who gets left behind. Digital systems can help people access services, but they can also widen gaps if older residents, rural migrants, or low-income groups can't use them easily. Researchers have studied China's digital divide policies and the challenge of making tech benefits more equal. So let's be honest, future city is not one thing, it's a set of choices. Faster systems mean smoother life, but they can also mean more data collection, more centralized control, and more risk if oversight is weak. Here's the final payoff, and it's the point of the title. China's real advantage is not that it can build tall buildings, it's that many cities can deploy a full stack: payments, connectivity, transport, and digital governments, then iterate on it like software. And that lesson is global. Any country can ask the same questions. Do our city systems talk to each other? Can a person move, pay, and access services easily? Can we test small pilots, learn fast, and scale what works? Some places will choose more privacy-first designs. Others will choose more centralized speed. Some will invest in rail, others will invest in buses, bikes, and walkable neighborhoods. The point is to notice the operating system, not just the wallpaper. So next time you see a future city video with shiny towers, look lower. Look for the invisible upgrades, the digital rails, the green drainage, the charging network, the data standards, and the boring rules that make everyday life smoother. Because that's the real advantage. Buildings show ambition, systems show capability, and in the long run, capability is what decides whether a city just looks like the future or actually works like it.